Hey, everybody. So welcome to the Careers in Preservation Trades panel. We're super excited to have everybody join us. Today, we're just going to talk about some of the different training and job opportunities in preservation trades. We're also going to talk a little bit about just like building that connection between trade or training opportunities and then the job opportunities that follow. So before we dig in, just want to let you know that we will have questions and answers at the end. So feel free to use the Q&A box. And then the chat box is also open for you all to talk to each other and make those connections. I definitely encourage you to do that. But yeah, at the end, we will check the Q&A box and answer any questions that you all might have. I just want to start off with a quick round of introductions of everyone that we have here. I'm Nina, the program director for the Historic Preservation Corps here in Massachusetts. We also have Amy. She'll be representing the National Park Service and the many preservation opportunities, training, and jobs that they have. We also have Jorge with the Massachusetts Building Trades Council. And then Alison will be closing out our panel today, and she is the Window Woman of New England, representing kind of those jobs in the specialty preservation field. So to get us off and started, each speaker today represents a different kind of piece of that preservation trades puzzle. In the preservation priorities issue brief that was actually just released, which is super exciting and timely, the task force cited that the lack of skilled preservation trades professionals was identified as one of the top issues facing the preservation movement. And so in this panel today, we're going to talk about that. As we all here know, there's not a lack of preservation work that needs to be done, but there is a lack of those folks who are skilled, who are trained, who can do that work. So despite the high pay and consistent work opportunities, something is missing. On a national level, the Traditional Trades Training Task Force is partnering with the Campaign for Historic Trades, the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and more to survey the country to find solutions. Here in Massachusetts, we may have a potential model for a preservation trades pipeline. We've got the training and then we have the job opportunities. And we have both of those things in many different formats. And I'm really excited that the four of us here today can represent those different opportunities. So each of us today is going to kind of present on what we do and which piece of that puzzle we represent. And I'm going to kick things off. I am here representing the Massachusetts Historic Preservation Corps. And we are a service opportunity. So our participants are AmeriCorps members, and we work in public lands, so state parks and national parks of Boston. And I'm going to do just a quick presentation on some of the awesome stuff that we do. So, Massachusetts Historic Preservation Corps. I am super proud of the service that our members complete, and we're just going to run through some of that stuff. We are a partnership program with AmeriCorps, the Massachusetts Service Alliance, which is just the state commission for AmeriCorps, Massachusetts Department of Recreation and Conservation, that's the state park system, and then the National Parks of Boston. Oh, we went way ahead. So sorry. So our program goals, we've got three big ones. Build the next generation of preservation leaders through training and experience in key preservation trades. The next one, preserve historic places across Massachusetts public lands. And then just to serve where there is a need in Massachusetts state parks and the Boston National Historic Park. And that can look like a lot of things. We do some trail work, we do a lot of cleanups, things like that, just to kind of meet those needs. The basics of our program, it is 10 months. Our applications are now open if you know anybody looking to learn some preservation trades. Our living allowance, we do pay $520 weekly. The benefits through AmeriCorps, there's quite a few of them. And then the big one is the Education Award. And participants can use that at the end of their service term for anything, pay off student loans, take some certificate courses, go back to school, go to school. Any of those things. We are a local program, so our members commute from the greater Boston area. And our shop and office is located in Braintree. We provide lots of training, OSHA, Let's Safe Renovator, first aid, the foundations of historic preservation, that's an National Park Service course, masonry, carpentry, window restoration, all of those things. And so we front load all of our training at the beginning of our season, and then throughout the year, we bring in experts and professionals to work alongside our crew members. Some of the projects that our participants complete, lots of window restoration, old wood windows, really important part of preservation, a really significant part of all buildings. Carpentry, we build doors, windows. We've done some like trailside structures, Civilian Conservation Corps structure, roofing, lots of masonry, and then of course the backbone of preservation, which is maintenance. So we definitely want to teach that that is a really important piece to preservation, painting, cleaning, clearing debris, all that kind of super fun stuff. Our ideal candidate, we don't require any experience, which is something that I'm really proud of because I know that we can provide really excellent training in these skills. So anyone who's interested and can demonstrate that they're really interested and they know that they want to stick around for the whole 10 months, we'll take them. There are a few AmeriCorps requirements for eligibility. All that can be seen here and then also on our website. One of the things that I'm most proud of with our Corps members is the types of jobs that they land when they leave here. I'm really impressed with what our members have been able to accomplish within the program. And then when they leave, they're just accomplishing so much more. And I'm really proud that we can provide them that experience. So here's a list of some of the jobs that our members get. This isn't an exhaustive list. I just didn't have very much more room on this page here. So yeah, some really good ones. We've got carpenters, we've got craftspeople, masonry specialist with TTAC, which is a National Park Service program that Amy's going to talk about, museum guide. So we really go all over the place, even some educators and park rangers. So yeah, that is the Massachusetts Historic Preservation Corps. I really love that we're able to provide some really solid training to get our members into the preservation trades fields. And now I'm going to pass it over to Amy to talk to us about National Park Service and what they've got.
Thank you, Nina. And I'm Amy Glowacki, and I'm the program manager for interpretation and education at Springfield Armory National Historic Site and Coatesville National Historical Park. And I'm going to represent this program today, the NPS youth programs, specifically trade skills. And the National Park Service, we're dedicated to the development of the next generation of stewards. It's in our mission. We're all about conserve the scenery and the natural and historic objects therein and provide for the enjoyment of the same in a manner that will leave them unimpaired for the enjoyment of future generations. So that's from the Organic Act, which is the preamble to the legislation which established the National Park Service. So when this was drafted in 1916, did our founders anticipate that we'd be the keepers of historic buildings with brick facades, stone walls, cobblestone walks, mechanical systems that need to be updated to function in the 21st century while being part of historic structures? So we have a dual mandate of preservation and use, or conserving resources while providing for their enjoyment. So our capacity to remain healthy and viable rests on our ability to maintain relevance in our communities while fostering that next generation of stewards with the passions and the skills to care for our resources. So we have many examples in the National Park Service of successful trades programs that are developing those next generation of stewards. You may have heard of the Stephen T. Mather Building Arts and Crafts High School, which is in New York City. And that focuses on masonry, carpentry, landscape management, and it uses our National Park Services as field placements for the students. They work along preservationists in the field. In Lowell, we developed the trade skills program with the Greater Lowell Voc Technical High School. And that was where the students, they spend time in the classroom, and then their lab or their field work, it's completed out at Lowell National Historical Park working alongside the trades workers. So we've hosted carpentry, painting, and electrical shop students. But the goal is to create pathways of experience. So creating those preservationists and good citizens of our community that we would hope would be able to be part of our succession planning and how we protect our resources and create a staff that represents our community at large. So in the Park Service, we value that whole caring for the whole person. So our youth participants, they're learning about historic preservation fundamentals and the history of the site that they work at, being immersed in the resource alongside the caring professionals, learning lifelong skills that serve our communities in untold ways. So we're constantly sharing our values and our mission. And, they're looking at that path towards stewardship, service, excellence, integrity, but also resume writing, interview skills, project planning, leadership development, communication skills. It goes on and on of what we're trying to instill, but it's all the goal of fostering not only that skilled historic preservationist, but true stewards of our resources and our communities. So how's that translate in Springfield? We're exploring a model of collaboration where we want to create a range of experiences beyond what we can offer at the Armory. The Pioneer Valley, or even the Connecticut River Valley, has a history of precision manufacturing, and the resources are in need of preservation assistance. And we also have a passionate cadre of skilled practicing historic preservationists that we're excited to be working with to offer these opportunities. So at the Armory, we're going to be hosting 2 5-month interns through the National Park Service Historic Preservation Training Center Traditional Trades Apprenticeship Program. So we call that TTAP for short, which Nina mentioned. And TTAP is very much like the program that Nina just described, only it's a 5-month program. And at the Armory, we're offering 2 different positions. One is in landscape maintenance, which you get to rehab historic grounds, buck and dispose of trees, thatch work, and arborist tree care and things like that. But the historic grounds, there's 33 acres of National Park Service land and almost 100 acres altogether when we include Springfield Technical Community College. So it's really a kind of an exciting place to work. We've got bringing back the historic orchard. We want to redo that. We want to bring back the historic rose gardens, but also we've got projects going on that are lead mitigation with the soil. So there's always something. And it's not only just the resources of the National Park Service, but it's also the Springfield Technical Community College resource as well. The other internship is in HVAC systems, and that's all about rehabbing and repairing our systems that are boilers, condenser units, pumps, air handling units, and also the historic clock. These are all inside an 1850s building. So working with the historic and the newer pieces together is a challenge, but it's also supported as well through our professionals in our community. And our third opportunity that we have is an 8-week opportunity. So moving away from the TTAP model, we have opportunities for painters on our historic quarters 1. And this includes a lot of ironwork and learning all kinds of things like choosing the correct tools, prepping the site, choosing the correct paint, being able to measure how much paint you need, and how we want to accomplish these projects. These are Armory based, but we want to partner with historic preservationists in the Springfield area to provide more opportunities for a greater depth and breadth of experiences and to build that professional network. So where we've been looking in the local area, we've been teaming with Preservation Mass and the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. But also we've been looking at our local unions, such as which Jorge represents today with Painters and Allied Trades, or someone like Alison Hardy with her window restoration, that how can we use our internships with our partners as this pre-apprentice opportunity where our young professionals gain the skills for entrance into these more professional trade skills programs. And that's where I would like to pass on the baton to Jorge Rivera, who's with the Union Trades program, and to share some of his ideas and how we work together to create that community to develop our future stewards. So thank you.
Thank you, Amy. That was a great introduction. So my name is Jorge Rivera. I'm with the Worcester-Fitchburg Building Trades Council, but I'm here representing the Painters Union District Council 35. As Amy mentioned, as a union, we're always talking about creating partnerships and creating pipelines into the trades through pre-apprenticeship programs such as the National Park Services and the programs that Amy represents. It creates and gives us a pipeline to our trade that the pre-apprenticeship programs lay out a good foundation as far as like the work ethic goes, getting up early, being accountable for the work that you do, and really learning what you want to do as far as with your hands, prep work, that kind of stuff, because the foundation on maintenance and preservation, it's all on the prep work. Our apprenticeship programs consist of 3 years of schooling while working. We train in the classroom. We train them on OSHA 10, OSHA 30, first aid, CPR, pulmonary fitness. Because of the industry that we're in, we're constantly working with lead abatement. We're always working around dust and different chemicals where we're removing kinds of stuff. So we do a lot of other industry related training. We also do a lot of hands-on training on equipment, equipment that we use to do the coatings removal, whether it's, lead paint or any other kind of paint. A lot of the stuff that we do has to do with industrial, where we're dealing with some of the bridges, some wastewater treatment facilities and water tanks. So on a big scale, we train on a lot of that big equipment. And then we also work with manufacturers on paint removal, and we educate them on the proper disposal of the material that's being removed and the new material that's going to be applied. We also educate our apprentices on how to read an MSDS sheet and how to read the product to make sure that you're using it properly and it's supposed to be done the way it's supposed to be done. The biggest component that I find, for the maintenance preservation projects is it ends up being, as I mentioned, the prep work. So with the infrastructure bill that hopefully will pass, there'll be a lot more jobs coming, to help in the infrastructure to preserve a lot of these bridges, tanks, wastewater treatment facilities that, usually the tanks, they need a recoat every 8 to 10 years, on water tanks, and our infrastructure is, failing left and right. I think this infrastructure bill is going to create a lot more jobs, and if we do them proper the right way, we can get a lot more out of it. The last component on the preservation projects in the code is the coatings application. That will help the structure last for years to come. And we work with manufacturers directly for proper coating applications and training. If the green energy bill also passes, it will help tremendously for our specialty coatings to protect the environment. In the past, when we were working with lead and that kind of stuff, we really didn't take that into consideration. Nowadays, we're looking ahead, we're looking into the future. We want to preserve and we want to make sure that, all these structures and whatever we're putting into the environment, it can be contained and it can help us out and not damage our environment. I also have a quick video to show you on our industrial program. Let me pull that up. I'll play it for you guys.
When I was 6 years old, my family moved from New York City and we came to Lawrence, Massachusetts. We actually went over the truss bridge. I remember waking up because you could hear the tires in the road from that bridge. And that's when I woke up and I saw lights. So that's why I'll never forget that bridge. The fact that when I joined the union, I was actually able to sandblast and paint that we were able to preserve it. It's awesome, and I was a part of that.
Me gusta hacer lo que es el deck y pintar. Y hacer el mix de la pintura son 3 cosas que he hecho ahora y que me ha gustado hacer. Y digo que estoy satisfecha y segura de lo que estoy haciendo.
Opportunity I got to experience was a lady was driving by, we were working, And she's like, oh, thank you for cleaning up the bridge. It's been like this for a couple of years now, and then you and your crew out here fixing it up and making it nice for the neighborhood. That meant a lot because it's a change. Somebody noticed our hard work and dedication.
Through the apprenticeship, through DC 35, and being a union member, we ensure you're going to get great wages, good benefits that you're going to be able to provide for your family in your future.
Our contractors provide the work. They're the employer. They provide our paychecks. DC 35's role and the FTI of New England's role is we take our members and we protect them. We represent them. The FTI, the training program, we protect them in job skills. We protect them with health and safety skills. DC 35, the union, will protect you with everything else. It is your health insurance, it is your retirement income, and your peace of mind knowing that you have
students to actually take it into consideration and see what it's about, because once high school is done, it's the real world, and this is something that it's promising. And as long as you put in your time and dedication and you show good work ethics, this apprenticeship will teach you how to be a great painter.
Getting paid to learn, it's amazing. You couldn't ask for more. You know, you get paid and you learn as you go.
Y cada persona que quiere entrar y usted tiene la oportunidad, sí se puede. Yo le puedo decir, sí se puede.
So that was a quick video of our industrial program and what we do when it comes to dealing with working on bridges, wastewater treatment facilities. I didn't want to get too much into our apprenticeship program, how long it is and how all that. But it's a fact of creating a partnership with pre-apprenticeship programs with people that want to be in the trade and then create a pathway to a great career, great future. And really take pride in your work. When you're driving by, see the structures and you see, oh, I did that, I painted that. So for reference, IUPATDC35.org is our website for our union. And that's all I have for a presentation. So I'll pass it over to Alison.
Thanks, Jorge. That was great. My name's Alison Hardy. I own Window Woman of New England. We are based in Amesbury, Massachusetts. We are one of the people who employs people who have gone through trades programs. Share with you a little bit about our company. So Window Woman has been around for 18 years. This is our 18th year in business. I have crews that have ranged from 4 people to 10 people. The company is actually called Window Woman of New England because I thought it would just be me when I started. But window restoration is incredibly labor intensive. And so I quickly decided that we had to hire people or else we wouldn't get any windows done. My shop is about 5,000 square feet. We've got it divided into a few sections, but the main room is where we do all the work. We've invested in all kinds of equipment to try to be able to work as safely as possible. These here are tables. At any given time, we have somewhere from 10 to 20 to 40 projects. Right now is our crazy busy season, so there's windows everywhere here. And we do everything from some simple repairs like just replacing broken glass to full restoration. And you can see this poor ancient sash has had lots and lots of Dutchman repairs to get it back into structural stability. Why do we restore windows? When you see something like this, it's obvious. How could you possibly replace these windows? They're so special. They're so beautiful. They were an incredible lot of labor to get these windows done and not inexpensive. So those windows are very easy to explain why you would restore them. The basic plain Jane 6/6, 1/1 windows are not as easy to explain. We do work on some large windows. Church windows seem to be our thing these days. But the work is very detailed and small, and we work with very simple tools like hammers and chisels and tape measures. Again, talking about safety, we assume that all windows that come in here have lead paint on them. One of the first things that we do is put them in our steam stripper. They go into the steam environment for probably anywhere from 15 minutes to a half an hour, depending on what kind of condition they're in. And it really helps to soften up the paint. It doesn't magically remove it, but it does keep it wet, keeps the dust down. So you can see he's worked on the steamed window over the downdraft table. All of this is designed to keep the workers safe. We do frequent air monitoring and sampling to make sure that we're not exposing people. And everyone is very obsessed with hygiene. This is detailed hands-on work. There is no magical machine that does the work. It is just people and tools. I have hired people with all sorts of backgrounds. We have a home health aide worker. We actually have somebody who worked as a park ranger. I have hired people who came from trades programs. I have hired people who have walked in the door with no experience whatsoever, and we have to teach them which end of a hammer to hold. We're really looking for attitude. We want people who are curious, are respectful of our built environment. One of the worst cases I had was somebody who had been through a preservation trades program. We had him scraping paint, and he said, you know, I could make these faster than taking all this paint off. And I said, every bit of woodwork in the house we're working on is original. I am not going to start replacing it. So he clearly had the skills, but he did not have the attitude. Once we do all the paint removal, and paint removal is 50% of the labor hours that are invested in a window, then we can get back to the work of reassembling it. So putting in glass, everybody learns to cut glass, and doing putty glazing. Putty glazing is quite a skill to learn. For those of you who tried it, I'm sure you know, but we end up teaching everybody. There's some people who prefer not to do it, but most everybody learns how to do it. And then, of course, painting is a big part of what we do too. We have very complex windows to very simple windows. Everything is painted by hand. We don't spray anything. It's more for a finish effect, and also just a setup. I don't know, I can't manage to set up a spray paint operation. And then we do a lot of work.
Hey, I hate to interrupt, but I think you're showing images, but I don't think your screen is being shared.
Oh, really? Nobody mentioned it. Sorry.
Yeah, I just don't want us to miss out on those images.
Let's try this again. All right. Can you see screen now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. I can whip back through my pictures if you just kind of want to see what I'm talking about. Okay. Can you see that now? So this is one of the pictures of my crews from the past, the workshop. Pretty, 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 pretty windows. The work we do. Steaming. Do you want me to run the steaming video again?
Sure.
Sorry, this is the steamer. So again, we hire people who come in with practically no skills. I'm always delighted when someone has had some experience working in restoration, working with tools. We actually have found that when we advertise for jobs, we have to be very careful to have non-gender specific language. We're not looking for carpenters. We're looking for people who like working with their hands. We're not looking specifically for painters. We're looking for people who have an eye to detail. So it's been a curious thing. I've worked with a number of my colleagues across the country on crafting language so that we get women and men who apply for these jobs. Right. As you can see, lots of hands-on work. Hands-on, hands-on, hands-on. So we also do a lot of work in people's homes. Re-roping windows is a big one. People like it when their windows open and close. We do a lot with weather stripping, etc. So it's an interesting set of skills between shop work and site work. Again, I hire people from all backgrounds, all skill levels. It's a fun group of people to work with. And what's interesting is that we all take great pride in our work. There's nothing better than driving around the neighborhood and saying, oh, see that building? We worked on those windows. So the Sweat Isley House in Newbury, Hamilton Hall in Salem. This big picture is actually a funeral home in Newburyport. Those windows are quite beautiful in person. And I can't go without talking about the Window Preservation Alliance, which was started about 6 years ago. These are tradespeople across the country who are all doing window restoration. What's nice about it is it's a very collegial group of people because we don't compete. There aren't enough of us, quite frankly. And one of our missions is to try to get people interested in this field. I think we talk about this all the time. You know, how do we get people into it? For me, what really happens is people buy old houses, and they buy old houses and they're frustrated with how they work. And so they get curious about how old houses work. And then they start, you know, going and exploring house museums and looking at other properties. So the Window Preservation Alliance, we help each other out with tools, with, you know, a lot of times if somebody is most of these people are small shops, 1 person, 2 person, you know, with 10 employees. I'm one of the bigger shops, although my buddy in North Carolina has 36 employees, but most of them are small shops. And so when there is a big project that has 100+ windows, we often team up. We'll split up the projects and team up to work together, which is kind of unusual, but it's been working. It's been working great. We have a growing number of members, but clearly we don't have enough members across the country, and we're adding new people daily because we need to save more windows, and it's great work, and it pays well, and it comes with all kinds of benefits. So we encourage anybody who is interested to come on down.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, everyone. I think that this group, again, I think we just represent kind of each step in this pipeline for trades. And it's really exciting to get everyone together to kind of talk about this. And, you know, one way that I think Amy definitely touched on it, but with these training programs, things that we do is, you know, all of that resume building. And then my program, we're actually having our first ever like actual career fair, and we've invited employers with open positions. And I think the important part of these training programs is connecting people to real jobs, because they're definitely out there, and there's definitely plenty of preservation work to be done. So we just need to kind of keep that pipeline going, and keep fielding members folks who are interested in this work, to folks like Jorge and Alison and all of these companies who are doing this really, really important and valuable work. So we did have a question come through. I just want to remind everyone, please feel free to submit your questions to the Q&A box. We'll also leave maybe a few seconds there if anybody wants to hop into the chat and say anything, any conversations that we want to get started. Even if you don't have a question or just want to say, you know, your experience in the field, feel free to add that in there too. We've got about 20 minutes remaining, so we definitely want to use it up. So our question was for Amy, and it's about recruiting. And everyone else can also answer if you have an answer. Where do you recruit for the landscape part of your internship? We struggle with finding staff to work on our landscapes with an eye towards preservation. And this question comes from Chris, who I know is actually starting a program similar to Amy and I's. So great question.
It's an awesome question, and actually what leads me here today, it's honestly, it's an essay question, and I'm hoping to get some insight from other people too. One of the first pieces of what we do in the National Park Service, especially at Springfield and the programs I've been involved with, is to recruit locally. That's the key. We would love to have local youth to develop that connection and the relevance with the community to keep that going. But I'll give you an example. When we started looking at the landscape program, here's where we went. Started out with colleagues in mass preservation and also in Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. And we brainstormed, where can we go? What can we look at? And first was Springfield Technical Community College, which is on our campus. They have a landscape maintenance program. So that was our first stop. And then we went out to The National Park Service has a lot of partners in youth programming. Not only Nina represents one, but we also have the Greening Youth Foundation, the Student Conservation Association, Conservation Legacy, Stewards. So all these different groups which have avenues into the communities to do recruitment. And Greening Youth Foundation was working with, who were they working with? They were working with Mass Hire, trying to go through Springfield and Holyoke to find people. And we went to hosting a roundtable. So we brought people in from around the community who might have avenues. And this was also looking for the HVAC, not just landscape maintenance, but we were looking at our workshop. We brought in people from the DPW in Springfield, and we brought in Springfield Museums facilities folks, UMass Amherst with their landscape program, like Historic Deerfield. We reached out to the Boy Scouts for their properties, and it kept going. So we brought in looking at STIC, not only a landscape program, but veteran support programs at STIC. And then I was brought to Jorge through the painting program. When I was looking for a painter, that brought me to Jorge, which then took me to UMass Lowell to Jeff Napolitano, who is the director of Community Works, who was a great resource in sending out the word. And then planning for this workshop, I'm now in connection with Nina, and Nina and I are going to talk about how we can recruit and what we can do. It's a matter of getting the word out. So I kind of buried the lead. We were not successful last year in recruiting for this position. And I don't know, we could blame COVID, but I think that we need to learn the community a bit more and be a bit more active on knocking on doors and getting out there. So that's a really long answer to your question, but I could have just said it's community. It's getting the word out into the community and using whatever networks you have. And I'm interested if anybody has any other ideas.
I just want to also say we've had a tremendous success with people who are moving into second careers, third careers. People who've been sitting at a desk, their previous jobs, are so excited to have a job that's more hands-on. So I actively recruit people who are mid-career or wanting to change careers because they have seen what the work world is like and they want something different. And that's always kind of a rewarding thing. And it's, we're also dealing with physical limitations. So we sort of have to, we think very smartly about how we approach our work so that anybody can do it. And again, we do have people who are good at one thing versus another thing, but we do try to make everything so that it can be done by anybody.
That's great. I just want to chime in on what Amy was saying about community. Community partnership does work, because somebody might know somebody knows this person, that person, and then just creating those buzz around what the needs are, and especially if it's around the community, you'll find somebody that's be interested to make it, better for the community. So partnerships work with community.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard someone say, Sarah Marsom, say to network across. Don't try to just like climb, find people ahead, but yeah, in the community, go across to people who you may not think of first, people mid-career, like what Alison said, and things like that. Yeah, it's all about involving the community. Absolutely. So we've got a couple more questions from Madeline. This question is for everybody. She says, I liked what Alison said about using non-gendered language when recruiting. I was curious if other organizations and companies here have noticed this as well and have worked to address any like gender gaps in your positions.
So within our organization, systemically, or the view of the union has always been different. So that non-gender language has helped us out a lot. Our union, our district council, Painters and Allied Trades, we take pride when we say we're 55% diverse, from people of color to females to minorities, all of that. And and it's that approach that we've taken, that for us, we focus, if you can physically do the work and you're good at it, you're going to have a career path. And it's, we don't look or discriminate. So yeah,
Yeah, I had an interesting story of one of our suppliers who has been having trouble recruiting men for his jobs. And he said, and they're terrible at fractions because it's all about making precision parts to size, and everything is done in fractions. And I said, these people just can't do it. And I said, well, have you thought about hiring women who sew? Because quilters, people who sew, you're always dealing with fractions. I'm terrible at math, but I got really good at fractions when I was pattern making for garments because everything gets sized up and sized down. So it's often, it's just breaking someone's thought. Like they think they need somebody with carpentry skills, and it's like, you actually don't. You need somebody who can learn how to use a hammer or learn how to use a screwdriver. So it doesn't really matter necessarily what their background is. It's a tough hurdle. And I have to say, I'm proud that in the WPA, about 50% of our member companies are women owned. There's something about window restoration that appeals to women and that women can be successful at, because I think it's a manageable project size. So it's also very detail oriented, but it's an ongoing challenge to try to get people out of their traditional mindsets of who does what job.
It's a really key point about thinking differently. Organically, just with my experience with the trades programs, we've had, honestly, most of the carpenters were females that I've worked with in these programs, as well as painters. But part of being the National Park Service and our organization, one of the things that we do is we work with the trades and the supervisors who will be working with the students to make sure that we're using gender neutral language and being inclusive in every aspect of what we do.
Yeah, great. Thanks, everybody. We've got 3 more questions. Hopefully we can get to all of them. So the next one is from Aaron. He says, thanks so much for the great presentations. A question for everybody: what are some of the biggest obstacles or difficulties you have faced in developing and running the training programs or while training new employees?
I'll go first. So for us, especially on the preservation or the industrial programs, right? When we talk about painting, everybody thinks like, oh, it's going to be easy. You're going to, brush, roll, this and that. It's, that's the easy part. So everybody gets like, and falls in love with that mindset. But, we all know when we start really digging into it, the real process is the prep work, and a lot of people, when you start looking and doing the prep work, that's where all the hard work really goes into it. The painting part of it is the piece of cake. So for us, the hardest thing has been trying to get the kids to empower themselves and really take pride in what it is that they do, because they don't want to do the prep work. They don't want to do the hard labor. They just want to do the painting, the easy stuff. When you look back, it looks great, it looks pretty. But for the most part, right, I don't know if it's the new generation, whatever it is, but there are some that really look at the fact that, hey, that was my blood and sweat that went into this, and I look back and now it looks great, whether they painted it or not. Them empowering themselves and really taking pride in their work is what's really driving a lot of our programs.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think for our training program, I think the biggest challenge for us has been figuring out the sequence of the curriculum, and then also just like the balance between getting things done and then also making sure that everyone is trained properly and with the right skills, and they all have enough time to process and kind of learn in their own way. And I think we're at a pretty great place now. But yeah, figuring out that sequence and like, do we do windows before carpentry, and like how, how does everything fit together and what makes the most sense and is going to like really build into the program, because 10 months, like a few weeks of training, and then there's like 9 months after that. And so making sure that everyone is really set up for success. But yeah, I think we're in a really good place now. We're in year 5 of our training program. So yeah.
And I can jump in next, another piece that we do is we look at the history of the place, that we're bigger piece. We're of something, we're one piece of a bigger mission and a bigger drive. So not just the stories at, say, the Springfield Armory, but we're part of the National Park Service and we're preserving this. We really instill that stewardship piece, that we're preserving this for those that come later, but we share the stories about why that building is relevant. So not just you're working on this building, but how does it fit into not only the country's history, but your history? Why do you care? I mean, that's the biggest thing. We have to care about something before we care for it. And so putting it into that bigger piece, and being in Massachusetts, we're really fortunate to have all these other programs that aren't that far away. So we can engage with other people working in those processes as well. One of the beauties of youth programs is like we could work with Nina's program and talk to her youth and what their work, and we call youth up to 30 years old in the Park Service. So I use it broadly. Looking at what they're working on and share the excitement, and even spend a day learning about their projects or their stories. So there's lots of room for personal growth that develops into that pride, and that gets translated into the work that we're doing and why it's special.
Yeah, just 2 seconds on my side is that pride in your work is hugely important, because again, 50% of what we're doing is scrape and paint day in, day out, and it is boring. Gives you a great time to think about lots of other stuff. But you know, when at the end of the day, people can see what they did and they have great pride in what they did. And you know, much as I would love to run things through here as fast as we possibly can, people have to do a good job. They have to be proud of the work that they did. And if they're taking shortcuts and using crappy materials and methods, nobody's happy at the end of the day. It's just a downhill slide. So it is important that we enable people to really take pride in what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everybody. All right, so a couple more questions. One from Erica. In Madison, Wisconsin, we are looking to build a community of preservation professionals in one building. Does anyone know of examples of this? This would hopefully include lots of collaborations with trades training and workshops. What do you guys think?
Actually, Double Hung Window Restoration in Greensboro, North Carolina, they started out leasing space in a building, a huge building, and then bought it. And there are carpentry shops in there. I think there's some cabinet makers, there's a painter. So he would be a great one to tap into at Double Hung Window Restoration, because they are sort of doing that. I keep promoting to do that in Amesbury. I'd love to have some glass blowers here. I'd love to have some metal smiths, you know, all those people that we need. Luckily, we have a great hardware store, so that serves most of my needs. Yeah, it's a great idea. The hard thing is that you know, people are very site specific. So finding the people who want to work with other people can be difficult, and people who can afford to rent space is often difficult. So you know, be kind to the people starting out and offer them good deals and give them space, because we all need space.
If I could jump in, I'll go back and I'll refer to community. You know, community partnership does work. Try to look within your community to see, you know, what you want to do, what you want to start, and begin that process through community. And you'll have a good foundation.
Yeah, thanks. It sounds like an awesome idea. I hope that it works out.
There's also some examples from the, sorry to interrupt, sorry.
Yeah,
National Park Service has the historic, it's HACE, Historic Architecture, Conservation and Engineering Center, which concentrates many of those skills that in one place that travel out, and the Olmsted Center for Landscape Preservation as well, looking at all those different kinds of hardscapes and different pieces and different programs. So those are just two Park Service examples, and Historic Preservation Training Center in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, are some examples from Park Service piece.
Cool. Yeah, I've been to the site in Shepherdstown, and it's one of my favorite towns to visit. Such a cute little place. Great. So next question from Rocco. We're going to hop back over to kind of recruiting and hiring. How do you empower the people you recruit to learn these skills that may be new to them? Do you find that the educational aspects foster greater care to detail to the projects you work on? Yeah.
I have to say one of the unexpected things that we do is new people train the next new people, because we start off again, what Nina said about coming up with the sequence of training and the steps to do. So, you know, we have them start with scraping flat paint surfaces. And they're trained by the last person who got trained. And it's always there. They always are like, I'm training. I just learned this. I'm like, but you did learn it. And, you know, you've learned some good tips. So tell the next person. And it's amazing how telling my people to train the other people really makes them invested in their job, because they really then have to think about, what am I doing? How do I do it? Where do I find the tools? Which tools do I like? Who's done it differently? So it's kind of interesting how, which is great for me because I hate training people. So pushing the burden off to my other employees to train other employees is a good one.
So I'll piggyback on Allison, you know, and our motto in the union is the same thing. You always got to look for the guy behind you to bring him forward. You know what I mean? And work together around with each other so the job flows easier, you know, especially the young guys coming up, you know, empower them to let them know, like, hey, I was running the job, you know, 5 years ago. Now you're running the job. Now I'm working for you. Empower them that way so they can get a sense of belonging, you know, with us in the union, and for you, Allison, might be, you know, with your company. The other piece for us is we lean on our contractors a lot because, you know, as apprentices coming in, new to the trade, new to the business, they don't know, you know, what's right and wrong. They don't know the industry. They don't know the trade. So you got to guide them. But we only do, you know, 6,000 hours over the course of 3 years. Which it isn't a lot of training when you think about it. So the contractors actually end up taking the new apprentices and new people coming into the industry or into the trade for a good chunk of the time. So we lean on them for them to train them hands-on with our union members, working with them side by side. So, you know, it's kind of along the lines what Alison is saying, but yeah, that's how you empower the new recruits, you know, to wanting to learn and wanting to keep them involved.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think a huge part of empowering folks that are being trained is just trusting them to do the stuff. It's giving them ownership over their projects. You know, we do have leadership opportunities where they're in charge of tracking, they're in charge of like doing all the parts of the project. And, you know, we're like, we're here if you have questions, otherwise you've been trained, let's see what you got, you know, and just really believing that they can do it. Which is sometimes a hard thing to do if it's a project that you like really want to stay in on, but you got to give them that space to be empowered and to have ownership over the work that they're doing. Yeah. Well, I think that's all of our questions, and we are about 5 minutes over. So thanks everyone for sticking around. It was really exciting to get this group of folks together to talk about trades. Super important in preservation. I know a lot of these sessions are more kind of the back end of preservation, funding, office work, all that super fun stuff. But we like to get our hands dirty, so that's why we're here today. So thanks, presenters, for being here and joining the conversation, and thanks everyone for your questions, and for, yeah, also you joining the conversations. Let's stay in touch. Feel free to find our links on the site. Otherwise, feel free to reach out.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Nina, for guiding us.
Nice job, Nina.
Good job.
Thanks.